Hello, I am Stephanie Joy, the attorney at All Things Social Security and Joy Disability Law. Your video is about to start. I just wanted to remind you that if you click the join button below, you can learn more about the memberships offered at a very affordable price that can give you a little more direct attorney answers to your questions. Have a great day and enjoy the video. So I'm wondering what you all think about the recently passed Social Security Fairness Act. Um, I feel like people don't really know what it is and the pros and the cons of it. And I'll tell you the part that I have concerns about. Number one, it's going to be doling out more Social Security benefits to wealthier Social Security, um, well, forgive me for that, wealthier retirees, but not to less wealthy retirees. And that is because it authorized the removal of the WEP, Windfall elimination provision. And that provision prevented a windfall of benefits to those that worked government jobs that earned them pensions in their retirement on income of which they never paid Social Security taxes at all. So one might say, well, then how did they get Social Security at all? Here's how. A lot of times, and by the way, I have nothing against these people because some of them are my favorite. I love police officers, for instance. Um, and they often work separate jobs, summertime jobs, seasonal jobs. And it really varies. It used to be, it seemed like all sorts of government workers never paid Social Security taxes on their government jobs because they had the pension and they didn't have to. Understandable. Uh, and then later on, it seemed like more and more were coming on board, more states, I suppose, uh, other requiring or allowing, I'm not sure which, them to have the pension and pay into Social Security. And boy, those people are doing great. And they paid for both in the amount they received. So what's the difference with the WEP? So the WEP is where a person worked and got a government pension on income that he never paid Social Security taxes on, and that's fine. Uh, and then he got a small, tiny job, seasonal, and did make enough to get his 40 Social Security credits you need for Social Security. Remember, to get those credits doesn't mean you have to have worked full time or had big earnings. I mean, a couple $1,000s a year over those years would get you there. Just a couple $1,000s of part-time seasonal work, working at the fireman's parade or that kind of stuff. Camp counselor, Um, so what was happening was the people, when you go in and you look at your Social Security earnings statement, it gives you an estimate. And I think in the fine print, they still discuss that this is an estimate and this is not the actual amount if you have a government pension on work in which you did not pay into Social Security. And the reason is this. Let's say you have a teeny tiny retirement coming to you from that very part-time sporadic job you had over, various times over the last 40 years, totally separately from your full-time career that you did not pay Social Security on, but you paid it on the regular job because, of course, we all do. On the regular little part-time digger job you had. Social Security only knows about the little tiny gigger income you had. So you appear when they run when the automated system gives the estimate, it appears that you were a very, very poor lifetime worker. Now, what happens with poor lifetime workers? They have it. The calculation changes as our lifetime earnings goes up. So a very, very poor person, poor lifetime earner, may get, let's say and I'm making up this number because I do not have the calculations on hand. Let's say when they figured out his entire lifetime earnings, of which he paid Social Security taxes, his average monthly was $1,000 a month. That's all he made over his lifetime of Social Security taxed earnings. Remember, Social Security doesn't know about that 100K he made a year working for the government and getting a big fat pension. Doesn't know about it because he didn't pay Social Security tax on that. So they're just calculating the SS retirement of that smaller lifetime earnings without that knowledge. And because it appears that he is a poor lifetime earner, they gave him this social welfare boost of a calculation formula. Not the same one that they're going to give someone who earns $60,000 a year as their average, or $40,000 a year for their average, or $120,000. The poor lifetime earners, and again, I'm not going to know the exact numbers here, but for instance, they can get 55% of their average monthly earnings as their benefit. Whereas a wealthier earner is never going to get 55%. He's going to be stuck with something like 20% or less, you know? Um, so if someone's average, let's say it was a $120,000 person a year that paid Social Security taxes on, $10,000 average a month. And we're just pretending that that happened their entire 35 top years, which is unusual. But, um, if their average monthly earnings was 10,000 a month, their benefit, let's say it's going to be 35%, not 55%, because the maximum goes up to what, 35, 3,800, whatever it is, right? Okay, so they're getting 35%, or it can go down to 25%, depending on how high your average monthly was. The wealthier of an earner you were with Social Security earnings, the lower amount you're going to be allowed as a percentage of your lifetime monthly average earnings. It's just that the poorer workers are going to get a higher. They could get 55%. And again, I don't know exactly how much it goes up to. I keep saying these numbers because I remember reading them, but I don't know if they were the caps or not. So a poor person might get 55% of his. Oh, I get 55% of my pay for the rest of my life. Whereas the wealthier worker is going to get a much smaller little smidge of his. Um, and and that is because they want, my understanding is it was so that that poor worker is going to have some visible Social Security retirement benefit, not something that he can wipe his shoes on. You know what I mean? And they want to get everyone up to at least a minimum. There's a minimum threshold of what you'll get if you earned all four 40 credits and you got your vested interest in retirement. So they have a minimum to help keep the poor worker off the street. Remember, the poor worker is also the one that probably couldn't put into savings and save extra for his retirement because he was barely scraping by as it is. Okay, so that's the understanding of why we have different rates, why a poor person might get that little social boost of 55% that nobody else is going to get. So what happens with Web? So this person is now who made the 2000, just like the poor guy that didn't have a government job. They both paid the same amount of Social Security taxes. The poor lifetime earner getting his 55%, and the guy that isn't the poor lifetime earner because he had that government job with a nice pension, but paid the same amount of Social Security taxes in, he wants to get the full 55%, like the poor guy. And the WEP said, no, that's really supposed to be for the poor guy, you know? Um, and to the extent that they can control that, which is not fully, of course. But no, wealthier pensioner, you're not the poor lifetime earner. That's what this calculation that we give him is for. You appeared to be because we didn't know about your covert government job, and I'm being funny there. Nobody's being covert, but it's just that SISA doesn't have those figures when they do their estimates. So, and it's not until you apply when they find out about your pension. So the wealthier dude wants the 55% paid to him for his Social Security, just like the poorer dude, given the fact that they paid the same amount in. But the poor dude is getting a social, I call it a social welfare boost to up him to 55% versus say the 25% the rest of us are at. Okay. And the wealthier dude who is doing by far better than everybody because he's got that government pension, uh, they were complaining about not getting their full amount. But it's like, no, that really wasn't your full amount because that's got the social welfare boost for the poor and you're not the poor. That's the way I would try to explain it to people. Like you're getting a social welfare boost that was meant for the poor, not for you. And nobody likes to hear that because we all want more money in our pocket. And some people will take it at all costs, even if it seems a little I don't know. I don't want to say underhanded, but um, And if it's legal, it's legal. So, and now it is legal because they took away the windfall elimination provision, which said, no, sir, you do not get the 55% that the poor person is getting. You're not going to take that from the Social Security fund. You get the 25% that goes with, you know, not being the poor lifetime earner. The kind of lifetime earner you were, that is what the amount you're going to get, just like your peers that earn the same amount as you. We get 25, you get 25. We're all in the same boat. But they fought it. It was, I didn't even know it was coming up so fast. And I was just listening to a lawyer Walters video that someone had turned me on to, and he's explaining that President Trump actually was a the Democrats who wanted it were not going to be able to get it over the hill to get it voted in for, apparently, until President Trump leaned his weight in it, and he's for it. Um, I'm for a lot of things he's for. I don't know that I'm for that one. Um, and I don't mean this against anyone getting a pension. They're my favorite people, like I said. I just look at the numbers and the math, and when I think of a welfare boost, I just like it to go to the people that need the welfare. I don't like it to be expanded to people who don't, and that's the only reason. Um, on a selfish front, I'll make higher fees when I represent pensioners. Woo, now I'm gonna make higher fees. So they're, you know, I don't really make my choices based on what my fee is gonna be in terms of where I think something appropriately should go in the law. But in fact, uh, all of us disability advocates within the Social Security system will generally be making higher fees because our clients who have pensioners will now be getting higher Social Security and won't have that windfall elimination provision knocking down their benefit, which would then knock down our fee on back benefits. So, on a selfish point, hoorah! But I don't vote that way. I don't vote with just my own pocket specifically in mind. I always look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture right now is that everyone's concerned about the Social Security fund. It's been There's been waste, uh, all sorts of problems. A low labor participation rate isn't helpful because that's how we fund our Social Security fund. So hopefully, when we get a better economy going with real vigorous, good wages and all that, and uh, a higher participation rate by the able-bodied people, like we used to have, perhaps not that long ago, that will strengthen the fund. It did it before, it'll do it again. But I don't like to see it get weakened where I don't even think it's mathematically appropriate. But anywho, I will enjoy the bigger fees. Hoorah. Um, but I'd not have voted for it. Um, but on the other token, and I'm not sure why President Trump liked it or didn't like it. I just listened to that letter that Walter read from the police thanking him for his robust support because they said it would not have passed without him. And I will say I'm very in favor of him detaxing your Social Security benefits. I think that'll be huge for about 40% of, I think it's 40% of Social Security uh, beneficiaries. There are some that don't get taxed federally because they're they don't hit that combined income, but that's a very low amount. But it's a lot of single people on Social Security will not hit that threshold upon which your combined income is now high enough. But apparently 40% do. So it'll be affecting a very large portion of the population. So that's a good thing, particularly when it's not like you can go out and earn as much money as you need to make up for those high taxes we're dealing with, particularly in this inflationary environment we are in. Um, so I'm all for it. There's other things that aren't taxed. Why can't that be one of them? For our, in theory, generally speaking, our neediest in a way, our seniors and our disabled people and our dependents. All right. All right, guys. It's a little off topic. Bye now.